Hey everyone, it's 10 types and rotation is coming up. I've talked about it a lot on the channel. I'm going to keep talking about it because it's really, really important and really, really interesting. But the basics, if you don't know, pretty much cards from the Sword and Shield era in the standard format, which is the main format, you won't be able to play them anymore. The format will just be Scarlet and Violet on stuff like Professor's Research and I think energy switches in. There's a few. They're not rotating. Yeah, nothing too crazy. We're losing some decks. We're losing some important trainers as well. The mid game's not going to be like completely flipped on its head, but there will be some changes. Some obvious again, like the big decks rotating, and then some decks will be losing some pieces. Some will be able to be played more because counters to them are, coming out of the game. However, there are a lot of cards that are going to be better that are a little unexpected that some of you may not be thinking of. The first one here is, and I'm going to be going over 10 of them, but I got Milotic EX. Milotic EX is actually pretty simple. This one is not exactly meeting those criteria. It's a card that is, I think this might be the best ones we'll take a look at. Maybe not. It's a card that is a very countery card. It's a card that, people weren't playing before because what it does, its ability here says it's immune to all damage and also effects of attacks from your opponent's Terra Pokemon done to this Pokemon. The effects of attacks thing I don't think matters very much from what I know. There's like Dragapult EX, but whatever. And they'll be going after your Milotic EX, and that'll be, or your Feebas, and that'll be bad. Them hitting your Milotic EX, whatever. The idea here is to wall off Dragapult EX, though. And in the post-rotation metagame, Dragapult is the most played deck, at least in Japan. That's where I generally get my data from their City League tournaments here on Limitless, which are reported on Limitless. And so this is really good there. It's a card that fits the idea of, like, played very little now. It's been played a little bit, but not much. And then it's played a ton post-rotation. It's been played some pre-rotation, but it's substantially better. Its attacks fine. It works pretty well with the Crispin like box style decks. I guess that's not really the term that's used, a Crispin box deck, but you see it in like a wall stall toolbox deck. You see Milotic EX as the main Pokemon there. There's also Fridgeraff EX. I think Fridgeraff EX is played a little more now. I'm not entirely sure. It's not like played a ton. Mimikyu, I do think Mimikyu is better than Milotic EX and Fridgeraff EX and Aegislash, and there's a new Crustle. Crustle isn't really getting talked about that much. It's not very good. And also won't be out yet when rotation happens with the new set. Also, none of these cards are from the new set. But Milotic EX is really good against Dragapult EX and has like an okay attack. It does decent attack, 160 for 3, and putting them to sleep, which sleep can be annoying and can win you games if your opponent's playing if they are just put to sleep and they might not be able to do anything about it. It depends on exactly what the situation is. But it's good there against Dragapult. It's good against Charizard as well. And a few different things as well. We'll talk about some different Terra Pokemon and Pokemon that interact with Terra Pokemon as well. And Milotic EX is really good against those. It's honestly, again, kind of boring, but it is really, really solid to good. Probably a top 5 deck, like deck number 5, I think. It obviously depends, it's rankings are subjective, but you generally have Dragapult and then Raging Bolt, then probably Charizard, and then Goldengo, and maybe Milotic. I cannot speak. Or Caludon, probably there as well. And there are some other really cool decks, but I think those are the top ones. This deck's just kind of weird. It is like, very countery. But anyways, next card we have is Perilous Jungle. Perilous Jungle is a stadium, and this card is really cool. I think it's a card that interacts with the poison, I guess, archetype. It's not exactly an archetype, and obviously it will be changing as we'll talk about. But during Pokemon Checkup, you put 2 more damage counters on each poisoned non-darkness Pokemon. Darkness is like a part of the game. It's a decent type with Charizard EX, which is certainly fine post-rotation. Roaring Moon EX is losing Dark Patch, and every Darkness Pokemon is losing Dark Patch. Doesn't matter, of course, with Charizard EX because he uses Fire Energy, but Dark Patch is pretty impactful, I guess, for Darkness Pokemon that aren't Charizard, but they're not amazing. And then Enzark EX is going to replace it. So it's not like the Darkness thing is changing, getting much better or worse. But obviously you can Poison, and there's Poison played now. This card's played a little. I was considering not including it because it is played some, I guess, within cloth-based decks. And of course, with Cloth Terapagos or whatever cloth-based deck. You have Radiant Hisuian and Sneasler, which helps poison. That is leaving the game, so if you want to hit certain breakpoints, Perilous Jungle does kind of cover that. But then you have Binding Mochi, you have the Brute Bonnet with Ancient Booster Energy Capsule to poison both actives, and there is Pack Run as well. The single price Pack Run. There's Pack Run EX as well. Pack Run EX poisons yourself. It is a Darkness Pokemon. Pack Run EX is played in some of these decks we're going to take a look at. We have this recent Arcaludon EX list that was played that plays the single price Pekkaron, and it also plays Brute Bonnet, and it plays Binding Mochi and Perilous Jungle, and each Booster Energy Capsule, of course, to use the Brute Bonnet. And the idea here is you can use Pekkaron as essentially a single price attacker. It's not even an attacker. It can go turn one going first. You can use Poison Chain. Binding Mochi doesn't work, or no, you can use Toxic. You could use Toxic Powder on Brute Bonnet, and then have Toxic Subjugation add some extra damage and the Stadium, allowing for potential turn one going first knockouts or turn one going second knockouts. It can do some different things. And then the Binding Mochi there is also really good. I'd say get all this poison stuff is pretty good. Adding guaranteed extra damage essentially. Perilous Jungle is not always guaranteed. Maybe they'll have some counter to the poison, but you can essentially always poison yourself and add on the Binding Mochi damage, which is an extra 40. All around the poison package is really solid. We see Secret Box, it synergizes really well with that, but overall the poison stuff's cool. You can play it in different decks. You can also play it with what is this? Again, whenever I do these videos, I always find weird things. This is Walking Wake. It's not the craziest deck around, certainly, but one of the decks that I think it stands out to me and pretty simply is there are Darkness decks, and one is Enzark EX as well. If you want to play that, you can play the poison stuff, and it looks like probably not Perilous Jungle if people aren't doing that. But you could put it in there, and you can put the other poison stuff as well. Binding Mochi is a pretty solid and pretty easy inclusion with Pekkaron EX. But again, Perilous Jungle is the one that probably people have the least. If you're getting it on live, I don't know how much it matters, but yeah, Perilous Jungle is a really decent and underrated stadium. That's pretty fun. That gets some extra damage pretty consistently. Then we have Dudunsparce. Dudunsparce is an engine. We also have Revavroom. These are different engines. We'll talk about them separately, but they're both stage 1 draw engines. A bunch of the top ones, pretty much all the top ones are rotating. I would not consider either of these in the top. There's also the Iono's Kilowattrel, which I think is decent. It's really just for Ionos. I can't really see it being used in much else in Standard. But it is a cool card that I want to talk about at some point. I just don't know if there really will be a reason to do so. But anyways, you have Dudunsparce, which... Oh, so the ones that are rotating, you got Babarel, you got Curly, you got Lightbard, and then like Raining Greninja, Force Seal Stone, Pokestop. These are cards that are all rotating. They're all, I mean, I don't know if they're all similar, but they are all support cards that can make up a substantial part of your engine. Rotom V and Lumineon V as well. Force Seal Stone on its own isn't exactly an engine, but it is really good. But you have Dudunsparce here and Revavroom. They're weaker stage 1 engines. Dudunsparce is really interesting, and this is one of the cards that synergizes, I guess, really well with the card that's coming out. But you have the ability Runaway Draw, which says once during your turn you may draw 3 and then shuffle this Pokemon and all cards attached into your deck. It has a usable attack as well, which hits through Mimikyu and can one-shot, assuming they don't have Luxurious Cape or Bravery Charm on, so that's pretty cool. But anyways, obviously you're here for the ability, and also you can't get stuck in the active, I don't think, because you can just use your ability to get out. So unless they like somehow shut off your ability, which seems like really hard to do, like they could use like Fluttering or something. But Dudunsparce, its ability is really solid. Not being able to get stuck is nice, and it is 3 draw. You do end up like drawing into the Dudunsparce pieces and kind of just drawing into the cards and playing them and drawing them again. So you don't always get super far with the engine, and it's not really consistent. Like something you'll have every turn, but it kind of is like Pheasantipty EX on like some turns. It can get you out of bad Iono situations or like burst you into certain big turns, but I mean the game's not like that long, so if you're not using Dudunsparce like a bunch of the time, then that's kind of bad. But it's a decent engine, and of course the new card, if you're not familiar, is the Dudunsparce EX. Dudunsparce EX is not that good. You play it within the Dudunsparce engine deck, but you can use your Attack Your Adversarial Tail as the attack name translation into 60 free cheer points. Pokemon EX they have in play, or they have in play. You could do 115 hit through Mimikyu, or effects of attacks, such as Mimikyu. That's the main one. This is pretty decent, the first attack, not amazing, especially because then you have a 3 retreat cost Pokemon that isn't a very good attack. I mean, it's like an okay attacker, and it's not really a liability, but it's an inclusion. You're not necessarily looking to play it all that often, but it's okay, and I mean they make each other better, right? So it adds to the engine's value a little bit. The Dudunsparce is an engine that I know is a fan favorite. It's really fun. It's really weird. It's a bit it doesn't work so well all the time, right? But it's more consistent than Zadu. Zadu's a really interesting engine as well. Not in this video. That's pretty good with Slowking. None of the Slowking stuff is actually in this video. I don't think so. I decided not to include it because Slowking is really its own deck, and those cards that are in that deck are either just in that deck or they're like good in everything, and you probably already have them. Like Regigigas is a pretty good card. But anyways, Dudunsparce is really interesting. The other engine is Revavroom, which is also really interesting. This lets you actually draw more than Barrel. It draws 2 more cards. It's draw till you have 6, but you discard an energy from your hand to use it. So it's 2 more, kind of like Raiding Ninja as well in that way. Discarding energy, this can get stuck in its attacks, kind of weird. But this has not been played very much. It's been played less than Dudunsparce. Dudunsparce has some interesting things. It also enables switching, which can be useful. But anyways, Revavroom does not do that. There is actually a Revavroom EX. I don't think I've seen... Oh no, I think I did see someone play it. It's random trivia fact. This is the only lightning Pokemon in Shrouded Fable. But anyways, yeah, this has been played just a little. I would not really recommend getting this. It's funny. It's kind of like the Dudunsparce EX. Revavroom's a bit weaker, definitely, I imagine. You do need an engine or you do need an energy in hand to use it. It's kind of like the reverse of the Dudunsparce, honestly. There's a card, actually, I didn't even think about this, but yeah, there's a card that has really good synergy with it, though. But you have you need certain stuff in your hand to get it going, but once it's going, it can draw you a lot of cards. Versus the Dudunsparce is drawing less cards and is not something you're using every turn. You could use Revavroom every turn. I mean, you could use Dudunsparce every turn, but you're not necessarily getting super far, and you need to draw into it every turn. You need some amount of luck, some pretty high amount of luck to use it every turn. Revavroom is solid, can just get you a bunch of cards. It's an engine I don't love. Again, it is a bit of a fan favorite, maybe. Definitely an engine to consider. Some of these decks, they play... So this is like Ceruledge. You have lots of energies. That's partially why it's really good in this deck. Ceruledge is fine. Not like a really standout deck, but it's not bad either. It's pretty cool. It's been played summon Caladon EX. Again, you're losing Radiant Greninja. You're also losing Pokestop. It's kind of awkward to get energy in the discard, so this will help you out there. You can actually attack with either attack on Revavroom EX as well. The second one, Caladon EX accelerates to a metal Pokemon. Make sure you accelerate to your Varoom before you evolve into Revavroom EX, because once you're there, you will not be able to actually accelerate to it with your Caladon EX, which is a bit of a problem. But anyways, keep that in mind. And then apparently people have been playing it as the engine in Chimpap Excalibur. Chimpap Excalibur is unfortunately not very good post-rotation with the loss of Irida. I mean, it's not that strong now. We see Chimpow EXs. We see Wellspring Master EX. Also, I guess pick up this card. It's pretty good. Pretty versatile. It's cool, but I mean, it's pretty commonly played, or decently commonly played now, and it's not like some card that's going in every deck either post-rotation, and does get a little worse with the loss of DTE. But then you have Regigigas. This card's, I mentioned this one earlier. It's quite good. But yeah, this is it can be played here, and then it can be played in Goldengo with Lightning Energy. Yeah, this list does play it with the Stadium Laventia, recovering 2 Lightnings from your discard into your hand, which means then Revavroom can be used after an Iona. You might not have energy in hand, but you can recover it. Of course, you do need the Stadium in hand, so that might not happen either. But Revavroom, there are some decks, Ceruledge or Caladon. Caladon doesn't necessarily have the high energy, but you are looking to discard, and Ceruledge you're looking to discard does have high energy. Goldengo has high energy / access to high energy through the use of Superior Energy Retrieval, Laventia, and lots of things. I mean, that's the whole point of the deck, right? So Revavroom has a case to be used in some different decks. It's pretty decent. Again, not a true standard engine, but a card that is cool and has some cool use cases. Next card is another Stadium, which is really weird. This is probably the weirdest card on this list. Maybe there are some weird ones, but it's Calamitous Snowy Mountain, which is another Stadium, kind of like Perilous Jungle, I guess. It says whenever any player attaches an energy from their hand to one of their basic non-water Pokemon, put 2 damage counters on this Pokemon. I think it was technically supposed to be there for Chien-Pao, I guess. This one isn't played that much. I think it's probably the weakest of the cards we're going to take a look at. I'm not sure, but it's a really interesting one. Being played in some different decks, such as this one here, which plays it plays Monkey Dory, right? So the idea is to use Monkey Dory. Monkey Dory, you need damage on your own Pokemon. So then you attach to your own Pokemon damage and then move it off. That's part of the idea, and can get some damage on your opponent's Pokemon. I've seen this in some different decks. This one is a Mimikyu Monkey Dory deck. It can let you do or Mimikyu Monkey Dory Crustal's like it's Mimikyu. And it's a stage 1 Mimikyu, a little stronger. I mean, there are lots of Pokemon like this. But you have the Monkey Dory with the Calamitous Stony Mountain, which is really interesting. I don't really know if this is like any good. Apparently someone played it in a presumably Monkey Dory. You got Fraliator, you got Greninja EX. And this person played it in Goldengo. Goldengo, you don't have damage on your Pokemon, and you can get some extra damage on your opponent's Pokemon. I don't know if this card's any good at all. I'm going to be completely honest. It's really fun looking, though. So I figured I'd mention it. A lot of it is with hop stuff, where you have extra energy attachments, and you want a little extra damage, and it gets it on your opponent's board, which is interesting. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, definitely, but it's definitely cool as well. And I kind of want to point out, tell me what you think of this down below in the comments. This is definitely the one that is the weirdest, but it's cool. But yeah, I actually have a Raging Bolt, but not that Raging Bolt, the Raging Bolt, not Raging Bolt EX. So Raging Bolt does, this one's like played some, but anyways, and it's not like played a ton bonus rotation, but it does 30 snipe for each energy attached to it, and then it's 1 lightning, 1 fighting, so obviously the same as Raging Bolt EX here, because I mean it is Raging Bolt, and then you can do 130 for 3 as well. It can hit through Mimikyu. The first deck can hit through Mimikyu as well. It's used as a snipe option, a single prize option. It's one of the cooler single prize options in the Raging Bolt deck. Nothing really crazy to say. Raging Bolt EX I should specify, because I mean it is playing the single prize Raging Bolt as well, the baby Raging Bolt. Yeah, there's Koraidon as well, which is another really solid single prize attacking option. There's not too much to say about this Raging Bolt. I mean, it has different use cases. I don't really play much Raging Bolt Ogerpon. I certainly haven't. I don't think I've played it with this card in it. If I haven't really used it much, but it's cool. It's an interesting attacker that can do some different things that you can't really do with your deck otherwise. So that's fun. It's cool again, and just consider if you want to play Raging Bolt EX, you can consider different single prize attackers, or I guess tech attackers, which don't all have to be single prizes, like the different Ogerpons, and stuff like that. So you have that, you have the Koraidon, you have the Slitherwing, you have, there are lots of different options, but Raging Bolt is one of them. It's one of the better ones, I think. I'd personally put Corestone Mass Ogerpon EX above it. I think that's just an amazing card. But Raging Bolt is definitely a really interesting card to consider as well. Next, we have Flareon EX. This is a Pokemon that I think is being underrated. I don't know how strong it is, but it's being played a decent amount in Japan. It has 2 attacks here. Its first one does 130 and accelerates 2 energy from your deck to one of your Pokemon for 2. Their second attack, Carnelian, which is also essentially shared by Vaporeon EX and Jolteon EX, does 280 for Fire, Water, Lightning. They just have different attack names and are on different Pokemon, of course, and then cannot attack next turn. The second attack's pretty solid, though not one-shotting everything. The first attack is obviously not one-shotting everything, but decent. There are some different things with this. It's within the EV box deck or whatever. Lily's Clefairy EX plus Sylveon EX can allow you to hit Dragon Pokemon in one-shot those, specifically Dragon Ball EX. You have the EV to attack turn 1 or faster. You have EV EX. Of course, Flareon EX is a Terra. We also see Wellsprings Ogerpon EX, which is a Terra, and we see these different Terra Pokemon to enable Noctowl, as well as Area Zero Underdepths, and we see Sparkling Crystal on top of that, and then we see Leafeon EX. Leafeon EX is really solid. Keep in mind the deck only plays 1 grass, but it does play Sparkling Crystal, which can make up for the grass, so do keep that in mind. Leafeon EX is a pretty good counter to Charizard, and some different situations as well. Just a really cool card in the EV box deck, and EV EX itself can attack, and there's a lot of stuff. This deck's cool. I've talked about some on the channel before, and I'm really excited to play with it. It is needing, a few more pieces. I played it some as well. It's a really cool deck. and definitely one of the weirder decks. It's not super consistent, um, but it is really fun. And yeah, definitely Flareon EX itself is a cool card. Again, not played it that much before. Obviously, it's a big part of the prismatic evolutions. Prismatic evolutions overall are pretty obviously, you have like reprints of something like say Dusknoir or like Crispin. These are really good cards, but they're not new cards. The new cards are pretty bad. You had Badoo, which is quite good. The Regigigas, which again I'm mentioning for a third time, it's pretty solid. It's pretty good actually. I'd recommend getting it. Here it is. And then you have the EVs. The EVs are solid as well. And then there's Black Belt Training, which again is also fine. But the Flareon EX is, I think, pretty underrated. The set was like well, I don't know. I think mostly regarded as really bad because it doesn't have the depth of cards or the strength of cards. But Flareon EX is solid and solid post rotation. Yeah, just keep in mind it is a decent card. It's fun, and if you want to play it, then play it. You'll not, you'll be able to play a decent deck, and it's a Terra Toolbox deck as well, which is cool. There's the basic box deck though, and the next card here is Glass Trumpet. Glass Trumpet's kind of weird for a bunch of different reasons, but one is it's been played some, so I was considering not putting it in. But mostly it's been played in Origin form Palkia V-Star. Mostly it's a one of this one plays as a two of. I'm pretty sure it's usually a one of. And it allows you to. This is also a two of. I'm gonna look older then, I guess. Um, Okay, maybe it's always a two of. I don't really play the deck. Um, yeah, okay. Anyways, it's a two of. But you accelerate to your like Trap Ghost EX, and it allows you to uh attack with that, which is cool, and do some different things. But it's not like a focus of the deck. It's only played in small quantities, and it just adds a little extra stuff to the deck to kind of get it flowing. But you're looking at Palkia as like a really core part of your game plan. Trap Ghost is important as well, but it's really there for the engine stuff, the knockout of the areas you don't want it ups, and it's an attacker. It's a decent attacker. But it's not really shiny in this deck, right? It allows you to accelerate. What this card does, if you don't know, you choose you accelerate. Oh no, you accelerate to a colorless Pokemon if you have a Terra in play. It does not need to be to the Terra Pokemon. You choose up to 2 your bench colors of Pokemon and attach a basic energy for your discard to each of them. It can be used with Trap Ghost EX to attack with either of its attacks. It can be used with some toolbox style decks as well. And then it can be used within the EVs deck as well. It has some different use cases. It's really cool. It's kind of like Mirage Gate. If you really enjoy Mirage Gate, this is the best replacement. Obviously, Mirage Gate is pretty different. You have the whole Lost Zone engine, but you do have Mirage Gate, like a Mirage Gate replacement, which accelerates to energy as an item. Also, like Dark Patch replacement, though there's NSPP up, which is pretty similar, I'd say. It's actually like very similar. But then you have Glass Trumpet, I think, which enables a toolbox style deck, which is really fun. Then we have Rocky Helmet. Yeah, I don't know. I was like looking around and I saw people playing it in Arcalodon. I guess because you're tanky and you can get some extra damage, which helps you hit certain breakpoints. I don't really know what to say about this card. It's the same as it is in Pocket, where if you're hit into, you put 2 damage counters on your points active, which is kind of weird. Like Pocket's numbers are lower, but not here. But it's really good in Pocket, but still in like the regular TCG, it's somehow still like decent. So Rocky Helmet's definitely a really cool card for just adding extra damage. It's not a standout amazing card, but it's kind of cool. Then the last card we have here is Power Glass. Power Glass is also a really cool card. It's an energy acceleration option. That's a tool, and it's like an effect that happens after you end your turn. After you attack, you accelerate to the active, a basic energy from the discard. It's played a lot of these decks. We see it in Cynthia's, which is not out, but we see it in Ends, some different things like some. Oh, that's not post rotation. Oh, that's definitely not post rotation. Mostly Ends. You could play it in some like toolbox style decks as well, which we see a few of. But Enzork EX, a big part of your game plan is copying Ends Darmanitan, which discards the energy, and then you do that, and then you don't have any energy on. You have PP up plus. and castle, and that can get you the stuff in ways that you want, but not always, right? You need to kind of like switch around, and it's kind of awkward. You retreat, and you need energy in hand, and you have reversal energies, which you might want to instead of mana tan, so you don't have a ton of basic darkness, but you probably have some of the discards, so you can power glass on, so that makes things a little bit easier. Power glass is not like a standout amazing card post rotation, but it's pretty good, one to consider, and one that if you don't really know it exists, which I imagine there are people who just don't, yeah, do consider it. But tell me down below which of these cards you're most excited for, and if you have any others that you want me to cover. But I hope you enjoy. Consider liking, subscribing, hitting the bell, joining the channel, all that good stuff. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.